में आते स्वयं भगवान, परम पिता का है जो जन्म स्थान। भारत की महिमा है महान, भारत की आजादी का ये महोत्सव है। सतयुगी भारत का मंगल शुभारंभ है, मंगल शुभारंभ है। हमारे देश की निराली शान है, हमारे देश का हमें अभिमान है। हमारे देश की निराली शान है, हमारे देश का हमें अभिमान है। सोने की चिड़िया जहाँ करती थी बसेरा, घर घर मंदिर था, सुख शांति का था डेरा। यहाँ प्यार की थी बोली, थी खुशियों की रंगोली। हर एक दिन उत्सव था, भरपूर थी सबकी झोली। यहाँ प्यार की थी बोली, थी खुशियों की रंगोली। हर एक दिन उत्सव था, भरपूर थी सबकी झोली। हमारे देश की निराली शान है, हमारे देश का हमें अभिमान है। हमारे देश की निराली शान है, हमारे देश का हमें अभिमान है। हमारे देश को हमारी जरूरत है, हमसे ही तो भारत ये खूबसूरत है। भारत का गौरव वापस लाना है, खुद को बदल भारत को स्वर्ग बनाना है। हम भारत का मान है, हम भारत की शान है, हम भारत की संतान है, भारत की हम पहचान है। हम भारत का मान है, हम भारत की शान है, हम भारत की संतान है, भारत की हम पहचान है। हमारे देश की निराली शान है, हमारे देश का हमें अभिमान है। हमारे देश की निराली शान है, हमारे देश का हमें अभिमान है। हो,
So welcome everyone, welcome Sister Jayanti on this 75th India's Independence Day. So so congratulations to our freedom, gentlemen. I'm not sure that we are completely liberated yet. Our liberation is still coming. I do want to just share a quick story on the Murli, in which Baba is saying that I was talking about love, and we know it's around Valentine's Day. So there is a story of Didi Nirmala. It's Nirmala, isn't it? Mumbai? Nalini, sorry, Didi Nalini. So she was always quite mischievous when she came to Baba. And when she came, everybody's trying to give her knowledge, and she's not able to understand the knowledge. And then she had to leave, but she had fallen in love with Baba by then, and she just didn't want to leave Baba. She didn't want to leave Madhuban. So then Baba said, okay, you want to meet Baba every day, right? And she said, yes. So Baba said, okay, wake up every day at Amritvela and Baba will meet you. And so two things. One is that despite knowledge, she just fell in love with Baba and got attracted to the yajna. And then secondly, she obeyed Baba and she woke up every day and she felt that experience of Baba. She shared this in Madhuban, actually, the story, that Baba was really giving her so much through Amritvela. So that says a lot, gentlemen, right? Anyway, we'll ask you questions on that later, but yeah, welcome and thank you.
Okay, so thank you for setting the context, because yes, it's a Murli that's linked with Valentine's Day, the next day. And in those days, it used to be a very easy thing to be meeting Baba every other day almost. And this particular Murli seems to be a time when it's a lot of the instruments who've been called to Madhuban, the dadis and the dadas, Baba's addressing them particularly, but also then towards the end, Baba spoke to the double foreigners. And so I'll take that up in just a little while later. But also it was the days in which when Baba would come, the stage would be decorated in Om Shanti Bhavan in a very, very specific theme, not just beautiful with all sorts of things dangling and hanging, but a theme. And so sometimes it was a theme of the mountains of Amarnath, sometimes it was a subtle region, sometimes it was a flower garden, and this time it was obviously a scene of heaven that they've created. And I wasn't sure that people had understood the connection of heaven suddenly being brought in towards the end of the Murli. But it's in that context that the stage decor has been created in such a beautiful way so that it's a replica, a model of heaven. With the best of intentions, you only have the Kali Yugi things to work with, but a very beautiful scene nonetheless. So that's the context. And then here, the comforter of hearts has come to meet the children who love him, and he has love for them. And so Baba talking a lot about true love and the definition of true love in many, many different ways. And so some of the things that Baba expressed in the context of true love, that when there's true love, then that love makes you forget the world. When there's true love, then it's like a magnet that pulls you away and you're free from all other attractions. When there's true love, it gives you a new life, a new birth, and you forget the old world completely. When there's true love, then it's able to transform your life completely. When there's true love, there's only the one you see and you don't see anything, anyone else at all. And in this case, it's mutual. We say, I say, Baba, I love you. But Baba also responds to me and says, I love you. And so we belong to God and God belongs to us. And then within that, Baba was saying how when there's multi-millions, billions in the world, and some of them are searching for that truth, that one who is the supreme love, but you children are actually celebrating a meeting, and only a handful have this fortune, this experience. the rest of the world, they might search, but they haven't yet come to that experience. So Baba making us aware of our amazing fortune that Baba picked us and we recognized Baba, and Baba told us who we are. And so that upliftment that comes just simply through that love, such love that when anyone asks you, where do you reside? You say, I'm always celebrating a meeting with God. I'm experiencing a celebration of love and that meeting. And so this very special gathering that is happening at that time, but also happens any moment that we wish to experience it here and now. But Baba's saying that you've had many, many celebrations and many, many meetings through the Kalpa, but only in Sangam Yuga do you have this experience of spiritual love and a meeting with God. And so this is that special moment in which you can have this experience. Never again through the whole cycle will you experience all relationships with God, all treasures from God, all attainments from God. All of this is now. And if you experience this now, a very beautiful guarantee from Baba, then for many, many lives in the future, you will be surrounded by love. You will be receiving love as a result of your belonging to God and dedicating your life to God's love. And so very lovely guarantee. You know, sometimes people say, how come nobody loves me? But it's because I forget that Baba loves me. I have to love myself, but Baba loves me. And if I experience Baba's love, I'm sharing, I'm radiating that love to others. And the response from them is love also. So never say, oh, nobody loves me, I'm all alone. No, I'm residing in that celebration of a meeting of love with God. And this is the seed that I have to plant today. And it's available for everyone. All of Baba's children can have this experience. And so Baba just reminding us of the power of this love, the fortune of this love, the benefit and the experience that this love can give us. And then Baba, of course, usually gives us a comparison with the Lokik world and how when there's the power of science, then they're able to send people far beyond the pull of gravity. And so beyond the attraction of the ground. And so gravity pulls you down, but they're able to go beyond that into that space in which there's weightlessness. And I was saying, well, surely your experience of love also takes you beyond the pull of matter. Matter is here and you are up above, merged in God's love. And then none of the attractions that are limited of the physical dimension can get to you. You are way up above and you're experiencing being lost in that love. And so Baba had, again, many beautiful comments to make about that. How today, if Baba were to ask everyone, do you love Baba? Everyone would say yes. But if Baba were to ask you, are you merged in love? Apparently, there were not so many who responded to that. And Baba's real intention is that we should experience being merged in that love all the time. No matter how powerful someone may be, they don't have the power to pull you away from that. They cannot separate you. There's no power in the world that is beyond God's love. And when you're in that experience of being merged in love, then they can't disturb you. They can't pull you away and separate you. Baba's expression was very interesting, that those who try to end this love of yours will come to an end themselves, but they won't be able to pull you away out of this experience of being merged in love. And I'm sure everybody's had that experience from time to time. But of course, what Baba wants is that this experience should remain steady and constant. But I know that everybody who is with Baba after 10, 20, 30, 40 years, many of those of you who I'm recognizing, 40 years plus. And it's because we've emerged in love, and so we're able to stay with Baba. But Baba wants the stage to be constant, because if you come out from that stage, then there's instability. There can be fluctuation. Sometimes happiness, sometimes a loss of that, different moods can come, peacelessness, upheaval can come. But if you stay merged in love, there's a consistency that's there that makes you stable and unshakable and beyond any of the other attractions that can pull you. And then Baba took up this point of mukti and jivan mukti. Baba didn't use those words, but the point that Baba was making was how when you tell people, yes, we want to experience life, but a life free from bondages, then they will say, but you're still coming into the cycle of birth and rebirth. And we want to be in that stage where we are free from that. We want that stage of liberation in which we merge within God or the Brahma element. And Baba's saying, well, what they're remembering is your experience of Sangam Yuga, that you have had this experience of being merged in love, in which there's nothing, no one, just infinity, no beginning, no end. And so they think that that's an experience forever through eternity. And yes, for us, when you're merged in that love, you're above consciousness of everything, including time. So it feels like an eternal experience. But the power of that experience, of course, is what then gives you the blessings and the attainment of Jivan Mukti, a life in which there is no bondage, but just that purity, that love, that joy. And so they remember this experience, but they think they will merge, samana. But Baba wants you to become saman, equal. You can never merge and lose your identity, but what you can do is become equal to the Father. So Baba played with those two words, samana, to merge, and also saman panna, to become equal to the Father. And yes, definitely, this is possible. And then Baba asked about the experience of the year of tapasya and whether it's possible to have this experience of being merged in love, even whilst I'm engaged in action. So karma yoga, in the consciousness, in the remembrance of one, but also engaged in karma. And I think probably even at that time, nobody would have said, yes, it's possible to stay merged in love and also be engaged in karma. And so Baba explained very beautifully, but surely when there is love and there is no separation, and you're constantly in that experience of celebrating a meeting with God, then surely you can stay in that experience and still engage in action, because it's a consciousness you have. It's not that you're separating yourself from anyone, anything, but no, you're in that higher state of consciousness. And in fact, then the karma that you do will be doubly good. It'll be filled with double force. And if you try to do karma on your own, it's challenging, it's tiring, it takes time. But if there are two of you doing the same thing together, it'll take half the time. But especially if it's the Supreme Soul, the Almighty Authority who's with you, then can you imagine how much power there is filled within that karma? And as a result of that karma, of course, there's going to be success. Of course, there's going to be victory. This is the slogan that the Maharati souls always have. Victory is fixed, nothing new drama. It's definitely going to be successful. And so experience that stage of being in Baba's company. And when you're in Baba's company, that companion is with you to help you. You do the work with your hands, but he's the one who provides you with courage, with zeal, with enthusiasm. And so with that power and courage and help from God, of course, the results are going to be even more beautiful than otherwise. And so karma yoga is actually that state of perfect balance. Just as you need to have balance between love and detachment, you need balance between solitude and company, many different types of balances. But this balance of karma and yoga, and both coming together simultaneously, is what is going to make you become complete and perfect. It's very interesting because we've had 75 guests in London, and we're not a retreat place. We're very much in the city, but somehow we were able to merge, and everybody supported and helped, and the bhavans nearby and some of the Matajis a little bit away. And the question that came from many of them over this weekend, some have been here 2 weeks, some have been here 1 week, some have been here a few days, but they all had the same question. When we're here in this atmosphere, it's so easy to be self-conscious. It's so easy to remember Baba and the company, and everything is together, everything is working. But when we leave and we go back home, and people started leaving yesterday afternoon, many departures today, many more tomorrow. So it's like the ebb and flow in Madhuban. You see people arriving, enjoying, and then you see people leaving. And it was very much that feeling. But the question they had been, how do we keep this stage of easy yoga when we go back to our logic jobs, when we go back home? And even somebody saying, when I go back to my own center, how do I keep the stage? And so yesterday's Murli gave the perfect answer. Just keep that love intact. Just stay in that experience of being merged in love. And then the karma is not going to be a distraction. Then the karma is going to be powerful and beautiful and successful. And it's going to bring others closer to God also. And you'll be tireless and you'll be radiant throughout. And so Baba explaining that very, very beautifully. And then, of course, it's the Maharathis who are there in front of Baba. And so Baba also talking to the Maharathis and explaining how it's Shaktis and Pandavas together that Baba is seeing. Not one, not the other, but together. And how each one is an instrument. And when you have that consciousness of being an instrument, you're actually on two stages. You're on the stage of the world, but you're also on the stage of the elevated consciousness that you have. Your stage becomes elevated in the awareness of being an instrument. But it's also a lift that you receive. It's a gift that comes in that awareness of being an instrument. And so Baba reminding us that just let yourself be an instrument, and then Baba's able to use you and work through you, and amazing things can happen. And then Baba's, of course, commenting on the scene that has been created in Madhuban, the scene of heaven. And Baba saying that you will enjoy, you will laugh, you will sing, you will swing, you will dance, and everything and you'll be enjoying there. And Baba won't be there, but for Baba, the great joy and the enjoyment is now in the celebration of the meeting with his beloved children. And then Baba said, you've created this beautiful stage, this beautiful scene, and Baba's not really seeing the scene. Baba's seeing the love of those who worked so hard to create this scene. And so Baba's seeing the love and the effort that's been put in. And yes, Baba loves it because it's been created by his special children, by the loving children. And so that's beautiful. But of course, it then applies not just to that scene in Madhuban of creating the image of heaven, but whatever it is you're doing. You're cooking for Baba. Baba's only going to take the fragrance, but that also, not the fragrance of fresh baked apple pie, but Baba's going to take the fragrance of the love with which you baked it. So whatever it is we do, Baba sees the love with which we're doing something. And that draws Baba's love to us also. So the practical proof of Karma Yoga is that you feel God's love coming to you in return for whatever karma it is you may have done. And so a beautiful Murli of love, a wonderful explanation of being merged in love and merged in the light, merged in the Brahma element, but also, yes, the tapasya. It's been the year of tapasya, and soon it'll be time for the prizes to be given for tapasya. But of course, it's not the end of tapasya. It's actually the beginning of being karma yogis. And so that year had been given, 91. So that year had been given to be able to focus on creating a powerful stage rather than focusing on things out there. But after that period, now Baba's hope is that that stage will be so powerful, so stable and steady that now you're able to move into that phase of yoga, but with karma. And so your karma yoga is what's going to make you become complete and perfect. So again, a question that comes many times, surely we shouldn't be thinking about service at this moment, seeing the conditions of the world, the state of the world. I had somebody tell me this just this morning, yet again, seeing the state of the world, seeing the conditions, I really think I just need to focus on tapasya and nothing else. And of course, Baba's Murli is saying, yes, give yourself the time you need to stabilize that stage, but don't sit in a corner divorced from life anywhere beyond that. Once you feel that your stage is stable, now practice that stage while engaged in karma. And so you're not neglecting either side. The yoga is there, but the stage is there also. So when I read Baba's Murlis, I think, well, is there any question that Baba hasn't answered? And of course, Baba has answered so many questions. And so if we want, Baba's given us the answers. We just have to look and listen and learn, and that's it. And practice. Okay, let me stop here.
Wow, thank you, Jayanti. I also felt wow when I first read the Murli. It's just so deep and rich. So just a few questions from the Murli, because we have lots of other questions. When Baba says, have this equality of remembrance, tapasya, and seva, do you have any formula for that?
Yes. Go inside and connect. And in that connection, it's very easy then to feel Baba's love. And then begin to do the task. So don't jump into the task, but take that moment of stillness, of silence to connect within and to connect up above. And that'll keep the balance.
So the balance is not a bit of this, bit of that, but basically all the time to...
You have to be ready to just take on whatever comes in front of you, because I may have another plan, but here's something that's coming in. Am I going to say, well, you're not part of my plan and I'm going to ignore you? Can't do that. I have to do what comes in front of me, but I have to do it in soul consciousness, in God's love, with that inner dignity that nothing can shake. We're all learning about it. We've all experienced it, and we're gradually getting there. And the beautiful thing is that Baba's still hoping for us. Baba hasn't lost hope in us. And so Baba's still encouraging us and commending us and loving us and pushing us further ahead.
Right, gentlemen. And I was feeling like Baba's almost like wanting us to visualize that he is our companion. Like, I think mentally that helps to just feel him, you know, beside us. So let's continue with that a bit. When Baba says, be in love, like in Lokik life, they say that the body creates all these hormones, endorphins, oxytocin, serotonin, etc. And of course, that's the feel-good hormone in the body. So what's happening in the soul? Okay, one is effort is being made easy. I take things lightly. What else, in your opinion, is this feeling of being in love doing to the soul?
My experience of just soul consciousness and God consciousness in that first few weeks when I came to Baba was when I understood who I am and who is God. Then just within a few weeks, there was a thought, I want to surrender. There's nothing else I want except to be with Baba. Service came later, the understanding of the depth of gyan came later. But at that moment, just that feeling of, I just want to be with Baba all the time. And so when you have that feeling of deep love for Baba, if that fire is there, then really there's nothing else that you want at all. What Baba is saying, all your pure thoughts are fulfilled. All your desires are fulfilled. Everything is just complete. There's nothing else that you want.
Gentlemen, would you like to take a moment? Just, yeah, just take a drink if you want to. Yeah. So basically, I was thinking, gentlemen, that, okay, we fall in love with Baba, and we all do. I mean, that's why we're here, because we all do have a lot of love for Baba. But then on the journey, that someone comes along and we think, okay, they're part of Baba's family and this is Baba's child. And then we begin to fall in love with that child. So how can one detect that this is not just soul love, but hey, you know, I'm going off the track here? I think it's a good time to talk about that. Falling in love with Baba is one thing, and that's safe. But then falling in love with an individual?
That's because I haven't given enough attention to soul consciousness. And so this is why I'm not full at that moment. And because of that lack of fullness, then that distraction can come. And the distraction is also then the Maya that enters the intellect that, you know, this is okay, it's not a problem, it's going to be fine. And then when you're off track, then when you begin to feel the sorrow of that, because now you're missing that pure true love from God, then at that moment, something begins to this is not the right path that I'm on. And so at that moment, then you need to be humble enough to take help from a senior, or you need to have enough power to be able to step away and really just sort yourself out, because going down that route is going to be dangerous and it's going to become really a huge problem. So catch it early. When I see I'm not paying so much attention to soul consciousness, I'm not experiencing that fullness of God's love, there's still a little bit of space that's empty. That's the moment to take action and focus really on my spiritual study, on my spiritual practice. Otherwise, you're heading off in the wrong direction, and it's only then the pain that comes from that that makes you turn back in the right direction. But of course, by then, time and energy has been lost, and maybe bad karma has been created also. But another thing that happens when you start focusing on one of God's children, or you think it's one of Baba's children, it's distant you from others around you, and you don't realize it. But of course, because your intellect is engaged somewhere else, then you're not giving enough attention to those who are with you and around you. And they notice the difference, they feel the difference. And so it's important to get back on track very quickly. But whatever time it takes, but whenever it is, I realize, then it's a lot of effort that has to be made to come back properly on track. So catch it early on and don't allow it to continue.
Right, Chandran. And then this other question where Baba said that whatever thought you have, particularly in regard to the cards that we send, then Baba catches that thought immediately. So does that mean that he's listening to our every thought? And then, he catches that one? Like, anyway, I think a bit of clarification is needed. He's not eavesdropping, right, on our every mental conversation.
I think it's the attraction of love that pulls Baba in our direction. And so when I'm in that higher consciousness of God's love, then Baba is drawn to that love and to that soul. And when I'm ordinary, there's enough ordinary souls around and I'm part of the crowd and God's not going to notice me. When I begin to make spiritual effort and I'm creating pure thoughts, elevated thoughts, thoughts of love, that's when God says, this child is worthy of my attention. And so I have to be worthy of God's attention. It's not that I can just be wallowing in self-pity or guilt or mud and down here, and then God has to make extra effort to pull me out. No, Baba's given me gyan. The extra effort was at the beginning on the part of God. I'm drawn to searching for truth, searching for God, and God is very active at that moment. And of course, out of the billions, there's not that many that Baba's looking out for. But when Baba sees me making effort, Baba's giving me very powerful experiences. Many have commented on this, the experiences that Baba gives them at the beginning. But that's the child taking birth and God's investing time and energy and attention. And then God watches to see what I'm about to do. Am I going along? Okay, this is fine, this is good. But it's not the one and only thing in my life. There's many things in my life, and this is one of them. And so God will say, okay, fine, let her carry on at her own pace. But when I say, there's nothing, there's no one except Baba for me, that power of love that I have experienced at that moment, that draws God's attention. And so God gives extra help because of the love that I am expressing for God.
So it's a mix of loyalty and purity and faith.
And the intensity of love.
Yeah, it's a vibration, isn't it? Just in physical, like you don't have to speak, you just get attracted. So with God, we have in his vibration. Yeah, that's beautiful, genuine. Thank you.
I especially, and I connected with this because Baba today explained exactly how God gives us help. You know, so many people say, but, you know, what sort of help can God give me? I've got to get on with it and do it myself. But I found Baba's explanation of how God gives us help very beautiful today. And so just experience God as your companion, visualize it, and then you'll feel that there's extra power coming to you, extra energy coming to you that you couldn't have done before on your own, but Baba made it happen and you were tireless. And again, it wasn't you thinking that, oh, there's so much to be done, I better get on with it. No, okay, I have to do this. I'll do this with Baba. And everything happens magically.
Yeah, he said he doesn't work with hands, but he gives. Yeah, that was beautiful. Okay, so yeah, lots of interesting questions. Well, one of them, and yeah, okay, so one of them is this, that when we are listening to Murli, Sakar or Avyakt, then what should we be visualizing in our intellect? What is the way, the vidhi of listening to the Murli? And maybe, Jayanti, you can also add what is the vidhi of reading the Murli?
Okay, vidhi is method. So the method of listening to the Murli is really just being in that consciousness that this is Baba, this is God speaking to me directly. And if you listen, even for a few minutes, be very conscious of this. Baba speaking to me, and you're absorbing everything within yourself. And keep that awareness. And that is pure yoga. That is karma yoga. You're listening, you're paying attention, but it's being absorbed in love at the same time. And so when Daddy used to see people, you know, really sometimes even swinging in love as they hear Baba's Murli, then he would smile and say, yes, I know what they're experiencing now. And then if my face is sort of blank and I'm listening, but it's not really penetrating anywhere within my feelings, then okay, it's interesting. And maybe I'll even scribble a few notes, but it's not really having an impact on the soul. And so the real consciousness with which to listen to the Murli is God is speaking to me, and it's my fortune to be able to hear God speak in this way. It's the memorial that's remembered in Bhakti that wherever I look, I see only you. Wherever I go, I see only you. Whoever I hear, I'm actually hearing only you. But that's the Bhagat singing about it. But for Brahmins, it can actually be the reality of our experience today. And reading the Murli, I find very often that I have the thought that it shouldn't be that my personality is coloring the Murli. It's really that it's as if Baba should speak and I'm reading Baba's Murli and I'm only interrupting it when there's something very critical, very important, very significant that I want to underline or that needs explanation. But mostly, Baba speaks for himself, and especially the Avyakt Murli. Interrupting it is really not necessary because Baba sometimes expresses the same idea in 2 sentences, 3 sentences, sometimes more. So Baba is clarifying everything as you go along. But yes, read it slowly so that there's time to digest whatever it is Baba's saying. but definitely in this awareness that it's God's Murli, that I have the fortune of reading, that I'm an instrument to be reading.
Yeah, very nice, gentlemen. Here's a question. When Baba says that what has happened is good, what will happen will be even better, does that also apply to those who are not in knowledge?
I don't think so. I think it applies to Baba's children, because if I'm without gyan and I see that something's happened and it's just devastating and I don't see it as good at all. Now, are things going to get better? I don't know. There's a woman I know who, since her husband passed away, which is now a couple of years ago, and she had gyan, but somehow the passing of the husband has devastated her so much that she's really isolated herself, even away from her own sons. And I don't know that she has daughters, but certainly I know she has 2 sons, and her sister and her own parents. And the parents are very elderly and old, and they're absolutely stunned at what's happened to their daughter. They themselves elderly, but now they're worried about the daughter. And her sister is absolutely shocked also. So I don't see that this idea of whatever has happened, it's okay. What's going to happen is better, and what's going to happen is the best of all. I think it very much applies to those who understand that this is Sangam Yug, that this is a time in which whatever has happened, it's okay. God is my benefactor. Drama is benevolent, also thinking only the best for me. And if I keep my consciousness on that level, what is the benefit that's happened in this situation? There'll always be benefit that I find, and then I can take it further. And yes, if I'm in that awareness of something being benevolent, beneficial, then today is going to be better than yesterday was. And tomorrow is definitely going to be better still, the best of all. And so I think that expression is very much a jnani condition in which my attitude changes because of my connection with Baba.
Right, okay, thank you. This is from someone who doesn't really get much sustenance in a country. So they're asking, when Baba says that we can't eat food or cooked food from others' hands, but then we can take fruit juices and eat cold food, I mean, like salads. What's the difference?
I think it's the time that it takes to prepare things. If I'm eating a salad, the preparation time of a salad in which it's just being washed and chopped, that's it. And the other where I'm actually giving attention to mixing ingredients and stirring them together or putting them in a pot and taking it through various stages of the whole process of cooking. It's such a vast difference. And so I think that if it's fruits, if it's salad, that it doesn't take that much preparation time. And so the impact of that is definitely much, much less than something that's been cooked and you don't know what oil has been used. I remember, when I was little and I had a school lunch, and it put me off having school lunches forever. It was chips, and I loved chips at that age, 11, 12. But I could taste that there was something horrible in it. I could taste it. And afterwards, I understood that they had used fat, animal fat, for frying, lard. And that was a system in those days. So you eat something outside. Now, what has been the ingredients they've used, you don't really know. What has been the material they've used, you don't know. Maybe there's a bit of onion, maybe there's a bit of garlic. You just don't know. And so the safest thing for Brahmins really is to just have simple food. And if you're eating outside, yes, fruits. Fruits is actually even better than salad, but whatever. Nuts, this is the way. I remember there was a person who came to Baba. This is 1975. And so there were not many pioneers or examples in front of her at that time. And she became a Brahmin very quickly. In fact, she didn't take the course. She came straight to Murli. She refused to take the course. And Daddy said, it's okay. And so she came straight into Murli and she blossomed, really. She was flying. And a few weeks had passed and I asked her how she's getting on. Full-time job and a very demanding job at that. And she said that I decided to experiment. And I thought, yes, I can have salads, but if I know, what the soup is like, then perhaps I can try a bit of soup at lunchtime. And so she asked the chef or the waiter, probably the waiter, what were the ingredients. And the waiter told her, and it seemed fine. She had the soup. And next morning, she had a bout of anger. And she hadn't had any anger over the last few weeks. And now she had this bout of anger, and she'd heard about onions and so on, and the impact. And so she went back to the restaurant and asked to see the chef and asked him the ingredients. And guess what? There was a touch of onions. And so she proved for herself by her own experiment what it is she needs to avoid. So it's really quite important. If I'm truly concerned about transformation, then food plays such a major part. And it's also a very good test where there are foods that you do like, and you wouldn't necessarily spend the time at home cooking for one person with such a complexity of ingredients, etc. And you have to go beyond the pull of taste and say, it's okay, I don't want that. I'm going to go back home and make my own meal. And even if it's simple, I'll cook it with love, offer it to Baba, and the taste will be great.
Right, gentlemen, thank you. So since we have a few minutes, maybe a few brief answers. Somebody's asking that if someone is good on giving gyan and refers to do only that, should we only give them that seva? Is it okay to only give them that seva?
I don't think it's a good idea because it will not make them a balanced personality. It's important to engage in everything. And then as time goes by, there are others who come along who take on those roles. And then you find that you yourself are focusing just on gyan seva. But also when there's administration, that takes headspace, that takes practical detail and all of that. So you're not still just focusing on gyan and yoga, you're still doing lots of other things. So I think it's important to have all-round development. Today, I'm in a center where food is being cooked by others and I don't have to think about it. Tomorrow, who knows where I'm going to be? And maybe at that point, I cook not just for myself, but maybe I'm cooking for those around me. I have to be ready for anything. So even if I'm not practicing cooking every day, I need to have those skills developed because I may have an opportunity to go to a place where there are no Brahmins, but I have contacts there, I go there, then I'm cooking not just for me and Baba, I'm cooking for them also. And that's going to be a way in which they come closer to Baba. So I think all-round development is essential.
Yeah, can I just add that when you're in the kitchen and working, you're literally not just sanskars, but literally banging into each other, and you develop so many powers. But sitting pretty on a stage teaching, it doesn't really get you very far. Okay, so here's another one. yes, if somebody feels a bad energy, some kind of spirit energy on them, what is your advice for that? And how can they remove that negative energy or spell?
I think they should speak about it to a senior and tell them that this is what they feel, so that it's a problem that's shared and it's not just kept in isolation. And then, yes, extra yoga, extra attention through the day and morning and night, so that then Baba's power can come in and create that protection.
Thank you. Baba said in the Murli that a wife never becomes a widow there. So we understand that means that the woman dies first.
And then the next sentence was, but both of them go off together pretty soon, one after the other. I was especially curious about that because, okay, so the woman never becomes a widow, which especially in the context in India, it would be such a tremendous liberation, because the respect that's given to a woman when she's married and has a husband is totally different to the disrespect that people have for her within her own family when she's alone without a husband. It's a very dramatic change of circumstance and situation. And this is where women who have been widowed and have taken gyan, it's given them encouragement and power, and they've been able to stand on their own 2 feet. Otherwise, it's very difficult. But I've seen those who become widowers, men who are now single, they don't have such a happy life after their partner has left. So no sorrow for anyone, but yes, no widows at all. And that's a big, big thing in culture. But also Baba mentioned that they'll both leave fairly soon, one after the other. Baba didn't explain it in those words, but the innuendo in the next couple of sentences was very definitely that.
Right, thanks, gentlemen. Maybe a quick answer to this. What is the Srimad when one is working late shifts and going to bed at 1 a.m.? When is Amritvela?
There are situations like that, and hopefully such situation won't last too long, and they'll be able to come out of that and change and have a more normal routine. But what Daddy would say to them is that, no, don't think that you can come home and say 2 o'clock, I'm going to have Amritvela at that time. Your head space wouldn't really be functioning in that way. You'd be tired and exhausted. And so it's okay, go to rest. And then whatever time the body needs, give it that. And then whatever time you need to wake up, or you wake up naturally, then freshen up and have your Amritvela at that time. And of course, then your study of the Murli also.
Maybe we should just take this question because it's related. It's related to the one about giving gyan. So what if now they only wish to give gyan when there is a certain number of students?
That is total ego. Daddy Janki left thousands in India, in Madhuban, when she came to London. And the number of people in class when she first arrived, it was Ramesh Pai, Ushaben, Moini Dr. Nirmala, myself. So not a single student. And then one student started to come. But it was all of us, that's it. That was her class. And then somehow it happened that the first local people who became Brahmins were Westerners, and they were mostly brothers. And so the Western class was bigger than the 3, 4 in the Hindi class. But Daddy never looked at numbers. She gave us a story of how Baba had sent, I'm sorry, I'm taking too much time now, but Baba said to her, you create a king.
We're okay if you're okay.
Well, I'm going to finish with this last story. It's a story of Raj, who later went to Jalandhar, and she'd been in Amritsar, and she was asked by her parents to go another place far away to study. And she was there. She asked Daddy to come. Daddy went there. And then the girl wanted Daddy to stay longer because she was totally alone. And of course, no Zooms, no communication of any type in those days. This is the early 50s. And Daddy then wrote to Baba and said, she wants me to stay longer. What should I do? And Baba wrote back and said, you stay there and create one king. That one king is going to create many subjects and you'll become the king of kings. So it's never a question of numbers, but quality.
Yeah, so true, gentlemen. Just final question. Can we eat radish and aubergines?
Radish, no, because it's very much part of that family that is very strong and what's the word? Anyway, it's not good for the adrenals. The other one, aubergine, there are many people who prefer not to eat nightshade foods, vegetables, because of the state of their physical health. But if nightshades are okay for you, then I've not heard of any wrong spiritual factor connected with aubergines.
I think it's an Indian thing. Some of them don't.
I think because in Hindi it's called bengan, and so sometimes people say beguna. It's got no values, no virtues.
So thank you so much and happy Independence Day.
Lovely to see your flag.
Yeah, I find it cute. Yeah. Thank you, Jayanti. And we'll and oh yes, those who still have those questions, please ask me again next week. Sorry, we couldn't do all of them. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Runa. Thank you to everyone.